Boom, it's your boy Big Baby Miller straight out of Brooklyn. You're watching True School Sports. Tune in, motherfucker.
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, word to my brethren in my hometown of Dania, Florida. Shout out to Dania. Be back in Dania tomorrow. Be back in South Florida tomorrow. Thank God, because there really truly is no place like home. Now, New York has been good to me over these last 2 weeks, but at some point, you gotta go home. And like I said, I've been getting very homesick since I've been away from Florida. But it's been a productive trip. Made some good connections here in the boxing world, and gonna continue pressing forward. But boxing talk for the video, I'm talking about Jarrell Miller, man. I'm talking about Jarrell Miller. Big shout out to him. He's fought on the undercard of Arias and Jacobs, and he fought Marius Walk, a guy who was very experienced, has been in there with top level names like Klitschko. He's had probably the most experienced opponent Jarrell Miller has fought, and he had about almost a 4-inch height advantage on Jarrell. So it was clearly going to be a fight where Jarrell was going to have to box a bit differently than we're used to seeing him, and he did that. I thought he did well. Obviously it was for me. It was a typical Jarrell Miller fight, regardless of the weight. Started off, slow in the first round, and then progressively as the fight went along, he turned it up, and he fought at 283. And I heard in his post-fight interviews he was saying that he didn't feel as strong at the weight, that he gave himself an F. He was very hard on himself for the performance. I think obviously he could have did some things better, but I thought he fought well. I thought considering the circumstances, considering just maybe him not being used to that weight. Because 283, when I saw him in the gym, I asked him off camera, I was like, yo, Jarrell, what do you weigh right now? And he was like, what, do I look like I lost weight? And I'm like, yeah, you look like a different person. He's like, okay then. So, he beat Walk, in my opinion, it was a solid performance. And he's in line to fight Anthony Joshua. You guys saw the video I did with Eddie Hearn where he basically just pretty much revealed, as he has in the media already, but he revealed it again while I was interviewing him, that Miller versus Joshua could be next right here in the States. That could be Anthony Joshua's first fight in the United States. Now, obviously, it's a fight where, if you're from a promoter's standpoint, Eddie Hearn, you're putting in your cash cow with a guy in Miller who, yes, is dangerous, but does have his fair share of vulnerabilities. And when you look at the vulnerabilities, the kind of vulnerabilities that if you're a promoter and you gotta fight somebody who's good but not too good, Miller has those, and he has a good. He's very marketable, can talk, knows how to sell fights. So my question for this video, and I'm gonna try to answer that a little bit too, is can Jarrell Miller realistically beat Anthony Joshua? Like, is that in the realm of possibility? And I know a lot of people were saying that he doesn't have a chance because he's fat and he hasn't fought anybody and all this, stuff. But I look at it like this, man. Anthony Joshua has 20 fights in his career. He's 20-0, 20 knockouts. Jarrell Miller has 20 fights in his career. Obviously, you would be led to believe that Anthony has the better amateur experience due to the fact that he won a gold medal. Although, especially talking to Jarrell, many people will say that he was gifted that gold medal, but nonetheless has the better amateur experience, the better amateur career in the opinions of most. And my opinion is simply this: I don't think Jarrell was going to beat Anthony Joshua. I really don't. Would I love to see it? Absolutely, because I think Jarrell Miller beating Anthony Joshua would be so great for American boxing in the heavyweight division. But I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. But can he beat him? Is there a realistic chance that it could happen? And is he a live dog in that fight against Anthony Joshua? Absolutely. Absolutely, Jarrell was a live dog in that fight. Because, and you gotta look at it like this way, man. Look, he's fat, yes. Maybe his punches don't have as much steam on them as you'd like from a guy that size. But what I'm saying is this: Jarrell Miller, he does not get the credit he truly deserves for his stamina. The stamina he has at that weight to move around at that weight to maintain a solid work rate throughout the course of a fight. I don't think people are giving him his just due for that, and that could play that sort of an attribute could play a huge role against Anthony Joshua, for the simple fact that Anthony Joshua, particularly in his last fight, and even in the Klitschko fight, because I went back and I watched it recently, he, especially in the middle rounds, begins to get really, really fatigued. He has this issue of his upper body getting really tight early on in fights as well. So there are some things, if you're a Jarrell Miller, that you look at Anthony Joshua and you say, I can beat this guy, I have the style to beat him because of the stamina, because of the work rate he can maintain. And the simple fact is this: if you're a Jarrell Miller and you can cut the distance on Anthony Joshua and you can lean on him, if you're able to lean on him and get in those trenches with him, it's a winnable fight. It really is a winnable fight because Anthony Joshua, like I said, his stamina, while it has been getting him, he's been getting through, getting by on fights despite his stamina, but his stamina is still questionable. And I think if you're looking at a fight with Jarrell Miller, you're looking at Jarrell leaning on him, you're looking at Jarrell trying to impose his weight. Jarrell, that's actually a fight where Jarrell, a lot of people I've talked to in the boxing world, a lot of insiders, especially here in New York, I've talked to have said that, Jarrell should kind of shred down for that fight. But it actually might work to his advantage if he actually maybe goes up a little bit of weight, not be 300 pounds, but let's say he's 285, 290, somewhere in that range. If he can carry that comfortably and show a little bit of strength, that's a winnable fight for him because Anthony Joshua, like I said, the stamina problems, no disrespect to AJ, he's got a good jab. He's got a good jab. I'm not gonna take away credit from his jab, but he doesn't have the kind of control over range yet, like he hasn't had, and that comes with experience. He doesn't have the sort of control of range and distance that some of you may think. So because he doesn't have the most command in the world with his jab, his jab for me is more of a power jab to back his opponent up and set up everything else. He's rarely used his jab as something to just keep the guy at bay and fight off the back foot. It's always been used to get him forward or get him on the front foot, but never on the back foot. And that's actually, if you're looking at a Wilder Joshua fight, that's where Deontay might have an advantage, because I think Deontay has shown the ability, especially in his last couple fights, regardless of what you want to say about the opponents, and obviously I've been a huge critic of his opponents, but he's shown a great ability to keep his opponents at bay and showing range control. I haven't seen necessarily the same range control for Anthony Joshua, which is why I think a guy like Carlos Takam had so much success against him. And that's where I think Jarrell Miller's size comes into play, the physical strength of him comes into play. You see what I'm saying? That's why it could be a good fight. The only issue that I have with Jarrell Miller is that he fights with his hands down, maybe a little too frequently, and he has good head movement, but he still gets clipped a lot. And I could see Anthony Joshua just lining up right hand after right hand on Jarrell Miller, and it could be a really short night. But if it's a fight where Jarrell can get into the 7th, the 8th, the 9th round and be competitive early on in the fight and let this guy know that, hey, I didn't come here just to, I'm not here just to take part, I'm here to take over. If it's one of those types of performances from Jarrell, it's a definitely winnable fight. So I think Jarrell Miller can beat Anthony Joshua. Do I think it's gonna happen? No, I don't. I just think that, Jarrell, for the skills that he does have, I just think Anthony Joshua is a higher caliber fighter. I think with him, he's maturing, he's coming into his prime. He's got great experience. If this would have been Jarrell Miller before the Klitschko fight, like fighting Anthony Joshua before the Klitschko fight, I'd definitely say, yeah, I might pick Jarrell. But right now, with him having that Klitschko experience, fighting on that big of a stage, no disrespect to Jarrell, but he's never fought on that big of a stage. He's fought on some decent stages, like this past week against Wack on the undercard, and fighting against Gerald Washington again on the undercard. But he's never headlined a big show, and sometimes people say that stuff's overrated, but no, it's not overrated. When you're a fighter who is not used to fighting on a big stage, and you got to make that jump up, and all the lights are on you, and there's more media obligations, and there's more pressure on you. You got more people in your ear. You got more stuff you got to deal with as a fighter when you make that jump up, and it can really have an effect on your performance in the ring. So I don't know how you'll respond to that, but I do think that would be a tremendous heavyweight fight. I think I think people are actually undervaluing how entertaining that fight might just be. And I'm not just talking about the fight itself. I'm talking about the build-up, because Jarrell. I think Jarrell is the type of fighter that will be able to get under Anthony Joshua's skin. I think a lot of times you'll hear Tyson Fury talk about Anthony Joshua and him not being the real him, and you'll see people say that Anthony Joshua is a robot, and the promoter like Eddie Hearn and people in the behind the scenes, they're turning the keys in his back, and he's just a puppet. But I think Jarrell is one of the few fighters that could get under Anthony Joshua's skin, and you would see Anthony Joshua kind of like the gangster in him come out for this fight. And I think the pre-fight build-up will be good. I think the fight will be good because I think Jarrell will come to fight. He would come to fight. He wouldn't lay down. And it's a fight where, like I said, he'd be a live dog. His footwork is really good. Like, I think the footwork of Jarrell would make him a live dog because of the fact that he'd be able to he pivots really well. He knows how to move around the ring really well. His stamina is pretty good. My only thing is I would like to see Jarrell when he does get on the inside against Joshua, shorten up the punches on the inside a little bit, because when he was fighting Walk, when he threw his hook, they're a little bit wide for my liking. So if he's fighting a Joshua, I would like to see him shorten up on the hooks a little bit on the inside and really leverage all that power he does have, because he's a big guy. I've stood next to heavy bag and listened to Jarrell Miller hit the heavy bag. It's a different sound than all the other heavyweights. I just think with him, he has to learn how to, maybe shorten up his punches when he gets a little closer to fighters. And I think that he's getting better with that. I think the experience against Fred Cassidy, he's been stepping up. Contrary to popular belief, Jarrell has been stepping up his level of opposition these last couple of fights. Fred Cassidy, solid, tough journeyman. Then he went to a good, solid fringe top 15 guy, Gerald Washington. Had a good performance against him, and then another guy in Walk who was a more experienced challenger. So it's definitely maybe if I was Jarrell, if I'm not getting the Joshua fight next, keep stepping up another notch, man. I would say, I don't know, man. Whoever is on a higher level, fight them and then go for Joshua. But yeah, I've been rambling for a little bit, but I think he's a live dog in that fight. I just think Anthony Joshua, sometimes he can get a little robotic in the ring. Stamina's not always there, and Jarrell has, from what I've seen, decent stamina to carry for 12 rounds. Has not devastating pop, but definitely respectable power in those power. He's a respectable power puncher. So that's a fight that if it gets made next year, and when it gets made, I would hands down be here in New York for that fight. Whether I'm here as media or as a fan, don't really care, but I want to be there. I want to be here for Jarrell Miller versus Anthony Joshua, and then people are writing Jarrell Miller off, but that's why we love boxing. Some underdogs can win. You could win the fight, especially with that one punch factor in the heavyweight division. He could win the fight, and the whole landscape of the division changes. So obviously, Wilder Joshua is the fight that we all been clamoring for, but I wouldn't be mad at Jarrell Miller versus Joshua either. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is Jarrell Miller a live dog against Anthony Joshua? If they fight next year, let me know in the comments down below. Take the time to subscribe, share the video, do all that good stuff. And like I always say, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dane. So until next time, take care, guys.